name's Dylan Wolf, and my country's Japan. It's a very unique country when it comes to culture and history and politics. Historical development. For a really long time, Japan was run under a federal system, kind of like medieval Europe. The emperor was technically in charge, but the real power was in the hands of these military rulers called shoguns. Shoguns were like top generals who controlled the land, while samurai warriors served under them. This went on for centuries, and during that time, Japan was super isolated from the rest of the world. They didn't really trade with other countries or let foreigners in. That all changed in 1868 when something called Meiji Restoration happened. A group of foreigners basically said, hey, we're falling behind the rest of the world and need to modernize. They got rid of shogun system and gave back power to the emperor and started adopting Western technology, ideas like train schools, factories, and it started showing up fast. This was a huge turning point, and Japan quickly became more industrialized and powerful. Then came World War II, and as you probably know, Japan was one of the Axis powers. After the war ended, especially after the atomic bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan was devastated. But here's where it gets really important. In 1947, Japan created a brand new constitution. This basically turned them into a democracy, and one of the rules in that constitution, called Article 9, says that they can have a military, but they can't have a military that wages war. That decision changed everything about how Japan interacts with the world. Even after all the destruction, Japan had an economic boom starting in the 1950s. They rebuilt super quickly, and companies like Toyota, Sony, and Honda started dominating global markets. By 1980s, Japan had become one of the most powerful economies in the world. So Japan went from samurai and isolation to tech giant and global leader in like 100 years. Political regime. Japan had a constitutional monarchy, which basically means they have an emperor, but he doesn't actually run the country. The real power goes to the prime minister and the national government. The prime minister is kind of like Japan's version of a president and makes all the big political decisions. The legislator is called the National Diet, and it's kind of like a Congress, and they pass the laws and vote on stuff. Japan's political system is mostly dominated by one party called the Liberal Democratic Party, or the LDP for short. The LDP has been the main political force in Japan for decades, which means they have a lot of control over government decisions. Even though the LDP stays in power, Japan experiences frequent leadership changes. Prime ministers don't usually stay in office for very long, and often just for a few years. Because of this political pressure, party disagreements, or public opinion, so while the party is stable, the leaders often change. There's two major topics causing political debates right now: defense policy and constitutional reform. Japan's constitution limits its military activities because of its pacifist stance after World War II. However, there's ongoing discussion about whether Japan should strengthen its defense forces and revise the constitution to reflect modern security needs. Japan's election system is a mix of two types of voting. People vote for local representatives in their district and also vote for political party through proportional representation. This combined system helps balance local concerns with overall party strength in the government. So even though that LDP has been dominant, there's still active political competition and important debates happening in Japan today. I'm missing one of my slides here. Can I come back to this one?
Sure.
society. Japan's society is really unique and has both strengths and challenges. One major issue is that Japan has an aging problem and low birth rate. This means there are more elderly people than young people, which creates problems for workforce and healthcare systems. Fewer babies are being born and people are living longer, so Japan is trying to figure out how to support its growing elderly population. One positive side is Japan has a very high literacy rate and excellent education standards. Almost everyone can read, write, and Japanese students are often score very high in math, science, and reading. The education is taken really seriously in Japan. Japan is also known for its rich cultural heritage. Traditions like tea ceremonies and the festivals are still practiced today. At the same time, modern pop culture like anime, manga, and fashion plays a big role in Japanese identity, especially among younger generations. For a long time, Japan has been considered a homogeneous society, meaning most people share the same ethnic background and language, but recently there have been more debates about immigration as the population shrinks in Japan. They need more workers, and most believe immigration is the answer. So overall, Japan is a country balancing tradition and modern challenges as it shapes its future with a cool mix of old traditions and new tech. Political economy. Japan has one of the strongest economies in the world. It's actually the third largest economy right now, after the United States and China. Some of Japan's major industries include automobiles, electronics, and robots. You've probably heard of companies like Toyota, Honda, Sony, and Nintendo. Those are all Japanese. Japan is a world leader in technology and innovation, especially when it comes to making high-quality cars, advanced electronics, and e-robots. To keep the economy growing, the Japanese government uses simulation programs and trade policies. This means they invest money in certain industries and work to make trade easier with other countries. These policies are meant to boost business, create jobs, and stay competitive in the global market. Japan is also a strong economy. Japan also has strong economy ties with countries like China and the United States, these relationships are important for trade, investment, and economic cooperation. Foreign relations. Japan plays an important role in global politics and has strong relationships with many countries, but also some challenges. One of Japan's closest allies is the United States. The U.S. and Japan alliance is very strong, especially when it comes to defense and security. The U.S. has military bases in Japan, and the two countries work closely together on military training, technology, and economy policy. However, Japan also has some territorial disputes, especially with China and South Korea. These are mostly over small islands that both claim ownership of the disputes that create tension from time to time, even though Japan still trades heavily with both countries. Japan is also committed to global peace. It's been active in the United Nations peacekeeping missions, helping with humanitarian efforts and sending non-combat forces to assist in rebuilding and providing aid in conflict zones. On the international stage, Japan is involved in major organizations like G7, the World Trade Organization, and other global reforms. These groups focus on economic cooperation, trade, climate change, and world security. And Japan often takes a leadership role in these discussions. Current issues. Even though Japan is a highly developed and successful country, it still faces some serious challenges. One of the biggest issues is the population decline and labor shortages. Japan's birth rate is very low and its population is shrinking. This means there aren't enough young people to replace workers who are retiring. As a result, Japan is struggling to find enough workers for its economy, especially in industries like healthcare, construction, and manufacturing. Another major issue is energy policy, especially after Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011. After that accident, Japan shut down many of its nuclear power plants and had to rely more on imported fossil fuels. Now the country is trying to figure out how to balance energy safety, cost, and environment impact, including whether or not to bring back nuclear power. There's also a constitutional debate over Japan's military. Right now, Japan's constitution only allows for a self-defense force, not a full military. But with rising tension in Asia, especially with China and North Korea, some leaders want to change the constitution to allow a stronger military. Others worry that this could lead to more conflict. Finally, Japan is dealing with cybersecurity and technology innovation changes. Even though it's a tech-savvy country, Japan has faced cyber attacks and is working to improve its defense online. At the same time, it's pushing for more innovation in things like artificial intelligence, robotics, and digital systems, but has to compete with other fast-moving countries like the US and China. So overall, Japan is facing some tough questions about its future, from how to power the country to how to protect it. This is the flag and map. It's a simple red circle representing the sun. And Japan is an island country located in East Asia. It's made up of 4 main islands along with thousands of smaller ones. It's surrounded by the Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Japan. And the capital is Tokyo, which is actually the most populated city in the world. This graph shows Japan's population over time. It started going down in 2008, which is a big deal. It means there are fewer people working and paying taxes, which puts a lot of pressure on younger generations. This table compares Japan to South Korea and China. Japan has a strong economy and high life expectancy, but way fewer people than China. So while Japan's economy is super advanced, its future growth depends on solving some of these population issues.